Good morning, FM guys and girls. I'm the not so special one, and welcome to our first player experiment video on this YouTube channel. The question today: is Erling Haaland a genuine cheat code on FM23? Quite common that I've heard him referred to that this year, and people signing him and then winning everything. So what I wanted to do, we've put Erling Haaland into every single Premier League club. We've simmed through a whole season as an unemployed manager, and we'll see how he gets on when he's not surrounded by the superstars of Manchester City. Let's see the answer to that question. Is Erling Haaland a genuine cheat code on FM23? So we jump straight into the action, and as you can see, the first team, we've done this in alphabetical order, so we're going to go through every Premier League team in order, and we start with Arsenal. Erling Haaland in the Arsenal team. I'm sure you gooners out there would love to see it. And he had a decent enough season. 48 games played in all competitions, 26 goals, 9 assists with an average rating of 7.45. 13 goals in 33 Premier League appearances. Possibly may have wanted a bit more there. But we can't really complain with 7.32. Now, from that perspective, one of the things that you gooners out there are going to be really pleased to see is that Erling Haaland did in fact lead your team to the Premier League title. His goals, his ability up front seemed to push you over the edge and beat Man City by a point to the league title. With regards to every other competition, we have, with regards to the Gooners, they didn't win any other competition. With regards to the FA Cup, they made it to the semi-final where they were knocked out by Haaland's City. Haaland did get a penalty in that game. And with regards to the Europa League, Arsenal made it through where they were knocked out by Juventus in the round of 16. So no cups for Arsenal, but I'm sure the Premier League win will be enough. Would be enough. So in this situation, Arsenal were predicted to finish fourth. Actually finished first, so that's +3. And I think initially our very first test here shows that Erling Haaland at Arsenal was in fact a cheat code to the Premier League title. Aston Villa were up next, and Haaland in the Villa side actually had an even better season than what he had with the Gooners in our previous test. So 44 games and 33 goals with 5 assists and an average rating of 7.53. 26 goals in 38 Premier League appearances with a really good term for Villa. He is a resounding success. 9 man of the match performances in the Premier League this year as well. And let's see how that had an impact on Villa's league season. Well, as we can see, they were actually predicted to finish 13th in the league. Haaland actually led the team to Champions League qualification and a 4th place finish for Aston Villa. And only 8 points behind Manchester City, who still did win the league without Haaland in their side. So obviously Arsenal, he led them to the league. Even without him here, they were still able to win the league by 5 points over Liverpool. And just a potentially worth noting, Arsenal finished down in 6th this time, 60 points, 19 points off the title. I think that's proof that Haaland definitely did the job for them in getting them over the line. It was a golden boot for the big man as well. 26 goals. Gabriel Jesus finishing up 17 in 2nd place, so well off the pace of the main man. With regards to Aston Villa, in other competitions, there was no cup competition wins at all. In the Carabao Cup, they were knocked out very early by Crystal Palace, although Erling Haaland did score a 2nd-minute opener in that game. And again, in the FA Cup, they got through to the quarter-final where they were knocked out 2-0 by Everton. So no cup competitions, but again, I think Villa fans would be extremely happy with a Premier League finish of 4th and Champions League qualification. And Haaland once again has proved to be a massive success and contributing on a +9 this time, from 13th predicted to 4th place finished. Now, Bournemouth were the first club that we were testing this with that were actually predicted to get relegated this year. So this was always an interesting one for me. I was quite keen to see if Haaland could keep the relegation threatened sides away from the bottom three, keep them in the Premier League. Naturally, we don't expect him to be winning things with the likes of Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest in these saves, but certainly he could lead them to some success of actually keeping them in the division. Now, with Bournemouth, he didn't have as good a return as our previous two tests. I mean, there was only 12 Premier League goals in 34 games. But across all competitions, there was 15 and 39 with a 7.31 average rating. Again, the rating is there. He's playing well in every game. Even here, though he didn't score quite as many, he's still scoring a good average rating. He's still contributing to the team week in, week out, as we can see. So let's see what impact that had on Bournemouth's season. Did they go down? No, they did not. 20th position at media predictions. So predicted to be propping up the league, bottom of the division. Erling Haaland led Bournemouth to a 12th placed finish. That's +8 on where they were predicted. An absolute flyer of a season. Nowhere near obviously the Golden Boot, but obviously did get 12 Premier League goals. Now if we actually look at Bournemouth's season, across the season, they actually only scored 33 in the whole season, and 12 of them came to Haaland. So he scored more, about a third of Bournemouth's goals, and I would say that is a huge contribution to a side. Bearing in mind they were one of the bottom scorers in the whole division. Fair play. With regards to Bournemouth in cup competitions, again, we have no cup competition wins, which is what we'd probably expect from the Bournemouth side. Their best performance was getting to the 5th round of the FA Cup, where they were knocked out by Aston Villa. But yeah, again, I think it's proving we're quite quickly establishing a pattern here. Erling Haaland in your team is going to get you quite a fair few places up the league. So we'll move on. Our next one will be Brentford. Now, Brentford are one of those sides. No one really seems to hate Brentford. I quite like them. They're quite a good team. And I was quite interested to see how Haaland got on in this side, to be fair, because I think the foundations of a good side are there. Yes, Ivan Toney's a good striker, but Haaland is a completely different level. So I was quite interested to see how he would do and what he could do for a side that was sort of predicted, sort of mid-table-ish. And I think most people would see Brentford as a 10th to sort of 12th, 13th guaranteed. They may slightly just edge themselves into the top half over the next couple of seasons if they keep on the progression track that they are. And Haaland had a good season for them. 22 goals and 3 assists in 38 Premier League appearances. He played every single game, started every single game. And he had 26 in 45 across the whole season with a 7.40 average rating. Now, the impact that had on Brentford's season, they were predicted to finish 11th and they qualified for Europe. So again, Erling Haaland has actually moved them 5 places up from where they were expected to finish, and according to this, they will be playing Europa League football next season. So a fantastic one for Brentford fans. Erling Haaland himself actually won the Golden Boot, so that's the second time. So he won it with Villa, won it again with Brentford. With regards to the average ratings, he is in 7th place, so the 7th overall best player effectively on average ratings within the Premier League on this save. And with regards to Brentford, did Erling Haaland lead them to any cup wins? No, he didn't. There's still no cup wins for Haaland on these saves, so he got as far as the 4th round of the Carabao Cup, where it was Manchester City, who keep popping up and knocking these teams out. But yeah, Man City knocked Brentford out in the 4th round. In the FA Cup, it was a quarter-final appearance, and Man City were again the victors over Brentford. So even with no Erling Haaland, they were easily able to overcome his new team in this save. But again, that is another +5 on the Premier League standings from where Brentford were predicted to finish to where they finished in 6th place. But again, it's a success. The geezer is proving to be a genuine cheat code on FM23. We're down on the south coast next with Brighton. And Haaland again banging in the goals for fun. So he got 24 in 36 in the Premier League, 26 overall in all competitions, just the 2 assists. So that's something that we are spotting here. He's not much of a creator. If you're looking for a forward on your game for a top side that's going to create goals for the rest of the team, this is not your man. But if you want a man that's going to bang in plenty, then Haaland is. There's possibly no one better on FM23. So with another good season behind him. At Brighton, down on the south coast, they were predicted 9th and actually finished 15th. So we've bucked the trend a little bit here. This is his worst performance in a team so far. Not necessarily on an individual level, as he still did bag the Golden Boot with 24 goals in the Premier League. On the average ratings, he was still 8th as overall average rating best player in the Premier League. Man City still won the league title without him, so again it didn't tend to have much effect on them. 86 points, but yeah, this is the first time that we've actually seen a team underperforming with Haaland in the side. Even though he played virtually every game, that we haven't got injuries, he was doing his bit in scoring goals. That probably tells us a little bit more about Brighton's team on FM23 than it does Haaland, but it does just go to show as well that one man cannot carry a whole team to success. We'll just have a look and just quickly see if there's any particular reasons on that Brighton one. Did they sell any big players? Was there anything there to note that might have harmed them? No, not really. I mean, we know Cucurella went before the season, so no, there is no real excuses either. A lot of loan signings out, but they didn't sell any big players. They didn't sell any key players that might have affected that. It was just a very poor season all round. So that's a -6 on our predicted to finished. We will look at the averages at the end of this video. So we'll be looking at the average sort of climbing or dropping in the league positions based on predicted to where teams actually finished. We'll look at his average goals and assists and everything else as well. And we'll also see the effects that it had on Man City overall. But certainly for the sake of this save, for the first time, an underperforming team with Haaland in it. It's the Blues of Chelsea up next. Now, I know a few Chelsea fans, and quite a lot of Chelsea fans that I speak to feel that the Aubameyang's not the man this season. After sending Lukaku back to Italy, they've left themselves without an out-and-out striker, and a lot of them feel that with a decent striker in the team, they would be doing a lot better in the league. So here we go. Here's the test for you Chelsea fans. Are you right in what you say? Haaland had a good season. 31 goals in 46 games across all competitions. 24 of those coming in the Premier League. Average rating of 7.38 across all competitions. With regards to performance at Chelsea, Haaland did in fact lead you to the Premier League title. So just as he did with Arsenal, and proving my Chelsea fans, my Chelsea friends, correct, with a decent striker in the team, yes, you possibly could be much further up the league than you are in real life. And it was actually one at a canter. I mean, Man City really struggled in this season. 16 points off the pace, back in 6th place. No Champions League for Man City next season. The Haaland leaving them was hugely detrimental to their club, but for Chelsea it was hugely beneficial. Winning the league by 8 points over the Gooners. Haaland was the Golden Boot winner. Again, as we'd expect, one of the best players in the league, 6th on the overall average rating. On top of that, how did he get on in the cup competitions? Did he win any cups with Chelsea? It doesn't look like it. Nope, there was an FA Cup quarter-final. Again, Manchester City pop up. They knocked them out of that competition. Barcelona knocked them out of the Champions League. And in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup, it was Tottenham that actually overcame Haaland's Chelsea. But again, it's a second Premier League title for Erling Haaland. He seems to like London, guys. So if you're a London club, get Haaland in your team, and he will lead you to a Premier League. And talking of London, our next test was with Crystal Palace. Haaland at Palace, back in London again. I'm not convinced he's going to lead Crystal Palace to a league title, but let's have a look and see how he did get on. Again, he's a 20 goal a season man, 22 in all competitions. 15 in the Premier League, 41 appearances, 7.35 average rating. Again, a blinder of a season. And how did Palace get on with Haaland leading the line? Not much better than that it was actually expected to, if I'm brutally honest. I mean, media predicted 14th, actually finished 13th. So it was a +1 on expectations to to actual what actually happened. I'm still learning on these videos, guys. You'll have to bear with me. I am still struggling to find the right words sometimes, but I suppose that's the beauty of a live video as such. Well, I say live, I could re-record it, but to be honest, it's very time consuming. I can't be asked, and I think hopefully this brings a little bit more realism to it. But anyway, let's get back to it. So Palace, 44 points. Yeah, it's over expectations. They haven't done anything fantastic. They haven't done anything amazing. But Haaland's kept them on point. They certainly didn't drop down any further. With regards to other competitions, there was a semi-final there was a semi-final appearance for them in which Haaland scored. Although they'll be disappointed not to make it to the final of the Carabao Cup after losing to Middlesbrough. They certainly would have expected to win that game. With regards to FA Cup, lost 1-0 to Everton in the quarterfinals. So yeah, no final appearances, no cup competitions there for Haaland as in a Palace shirt. Yeah, it's I suppose a little bit underwhelming, that one. Nothing really special happens, so we'll move on swiftly to Everton. And with Everton, I think this is another team as well this year that people are expecting to struggle in real life. Calvert-Lewin's not the striker that he was a couple of seasons ago. Richarlison's left the club. I think a lot of people see them struggling for goals. Pretty decent at the back. So with Haaland in the team, with a decent striker there, he could potentially make all the difference. And he did score 15 goals in 38 Premier League appearances, 19 in 43 across all competitions, with just 4 assists, 7.27 as an average rating. So I think that is the lowest that we've seen so far across all of our tests. And with regards to Everton, though, it was a resoundingly better season than expected. Media prediction 16th, expected to be down battling against relegation. In fact, they just missed out on Europe. Haaland actually led his Everton side to 3 points off 7th place as they finish 8th in the league, and he was 3rd in the Golden Boot. To be fair, not one single striker managed to make it to 20 goals this season. Salah leading the way, on his way to leading Liverpool to the Premier League title. So without Haaland in the team, Man City certainly suffered in that respect, and Liverpool took full advantage. With regards to cup competitions, Everton managed a quarter-final appearance where they were knocked out by Aston Villa. And in the Carabao Cup, it was really poor. Went out to Nottingham Forest in the second round. So, yeah, no cup runs for Haaland in an Everton shirt. But the Toffees, I think, would be pleased with an 8th position finish. And Erling Haaland probably kept Frank Lampard in a job. Moving on to Fulham, and another side that was firmly expected to be in the relegation places this year. So they were predicted to go straight back down to the Championship. Squad isn't the best. They've got a striker in Mitrovic in real life that is scoring and sort of keeping them afloat. But again, Haaland, as we know, brings a whole nother dynamic to the team. And in the Fulham side, he scored 25 goals across 45 appearances with an average rating of 7.33, 14 in the Premier League, and thus far since the Arsenal save when he got 9 assists, he actually got 7 for Fulham. So a little bit more creative in the Fulham side. And the impact on them, did they go down with Haaland in the team? They were predicted to finish 18th, but in fact they were a +9 as Haaland led Fulham to a top half finish. 9th place, just 5 points off the European, off the top 7 and potential European qualification. There was a lot of high goal scorers this year, so Haaland's 15 in the Premier League were not good enough to get him near the Golden Boot. But Man City still managed to win the title yet again without Haaland in the team. But yeah, all in all, another good season. Another season that saw a team destined for relegation massively overachieve. Just as he did with Bournemouth, +8 places there, +9 places with Fulham. Was there any cup success with Haaland in a Fulham shirt? We'll just have a very quick look. There was a semi-final appearance in the Carabao Cup, and again it was Manchester City that overcome Haaland's side to progress to the final, and so there was no Wembley day out for the Fulham side. With regards to the FA Cup, again no real shame in going out to Liverpool in the fourth round. Haaland did score in both of these games, both the semi-final Carabao Cup defeat and the FA Cup defeat to Liverpool, so he did his bit. But overall, as we'd expect, Man City and Liverpool squad's too strong. But overall, it is a very good performance from Fulham with Haaland in the team. So Erling Haaland with both Chelsea and Aston Villa scored over 30 goals in a season. They're the only two teams up to this point that he's managed that with. However, with Leeds, he did repeat the feat. So 30 goals exactly across 41 games in all competitions, 3 assists, 7.44 average rating, a very, very good season in a Leeds shirt. With regards to Leeds, they were predicted to finish 10th in the Premier League, bang on mid-table. I'll be honest with you, I kind of feel that that's a little bit ambitious. If I'm honest, I don't see Leeds finishing 10th this season in real life, or to be honest, getting anywhere near it. I do apologise, Leeds fans, but it's just my honest opinion. I do not think that Jesse Marsch is the guy to lead you to success. However, under Haaland, Jesse Marsch did in fact keep his job, and they led you to a 9th placed finish. Again, 5 points off the European spots, the top 6, but there was a huge gap, to be fair, between 5th and 6th. Tottenham 74 points, Manchester United 59, Leeds down on 54, but a good return. And Erling Haaland with his 24 Premier League goals actually won the Golden Boot in a Leeds shirt, so he absolutely flew. He had a great season. With regards to the league title, Manchester City dropping down to 4th, not a great season for them without Haaland in the side, and another league title for Liverpool. So whenever Man City seems to falter, we are very much seeing a pattern that Liverpool are the ones that pick up the pieces and win the league title when they don't. Now, with regards to cup competitions, with Haaland at Leeds, we are looking at, do we have a cup win for Erling Haaland yet, other than the Premier League? We do not. We have an FA Cup quarter-final appearance against West Brom, followed by a semi-final against none other than Manchester City. They have overcome Haaland again in a Leeds shirt and stopped an FA Cup final. So Haaland does seem to be leading teams to quarter-finals, semi-finals, and then they come up against the likes of Man City or Liverpool and generally tend to falter. With regards to the Carabao Cup, it was an early exit, Nottingham Forest knocking them out in the 4th round. So still no cup wins, but again, +1 on the overall prediction to have finished, and another relatively successful season, considering I think this 10th, like I said at the start, I think that's ambitious for Leeds. So I think a 9th place finish is very, very promising indeed. So Leicester City, the surprise winners of the Premier League a few seasons ago. With Haaland back in their side, could they mount a challenge against the top teams again? He did score 17 Premier League goals in 33 games, 2 assists. So he was scoring 1 every other game, 25 overall in all competitions, 43 games played, 7.41 average rating. Yeah, again, as an individual, blinding season. With regards to Leicester, they were predicted a 12th place finish, and with Haaland in the team, they finished exactly 12th. They're the first team under our testing conditions here that we've seen finish exactly where they were expected to. Haaland was a Golden Boot winner with his 17 Premier League goals, so again he led the way in that respect. But as we can see, even though Leicester finished 12th, they have qualified for Europe, which makes me think that we may just have a first cup victory with Haaland in a shirt other than a Manchester City one. Obviously we're not counting the Premier League there, we're looking at cup competitions because we know we've already won the league with Arsenal and Chelsea. But with Leicester, he did go on to win the Carabao Cup, beating Manchester United in the final, and Erling Haaland did score. He did score in both legs. He scored in the second leg, 2 goals against Brentford in the semi-final as well. He scored in the quarter-final against Wolves. Yeah, he was a big factor in leading Leicester to to a Carabao Cup victory. So again, he's been a success, although he didn't really progress them on in the league any more than expected. He certainly did have an impact on bringing a trophy to the club yet again. So I think it has to be seen as a success because he's won something there. Yeah, it's decent for Leicester fans with another trophy in the cabinet. And we'll move on. We're going to Liverpool next, and I think that one's going to be really interesting to see because I think most people will be expecting, with that switch from Manchester to Liverpool, for Liverpool to win the Premier League with Haaland in the side. But they didn't. Manchester City won the Premier League by 10 points over Liverpool, even with Haaland in a Liverpool shirt. As we can see, Haaland was 16 goals for Liverpool as he was third in the Golden Boot race. And if we look at his stats overall across the whole season, he's scored 32 goals in an incredible 57 games. 57 games this guy's played. One thing that we are noticing as we're sort of just past the halfway point in this video is that Haaland is very, very good on the injury front. He clearly doesn't get injured very often. He's played well over 40 games for most of the clubs that we've tested so far. I think everyone bar Bournemouth, where he played 39, but that was probably due to a lack of competitions that they play in. But in general, yeah, he doesn't seem to get injured. He just goes and goes and goes. You can start him in these games. He doesn't really, like for Liverpool, he didn't make a single sub appearance. 57 starts, 32 goals, 5 assists, 7.56 average rating. Absolute blinder of a season, even though Liverpool could not win the Premier League with him in their team. They were predicted to finish second, and they finished second, so it's just a neutral on the plus and minus for predicted to finished. With regards to Liverpool, did they win any trophies with Haaland leading the line? Let's take a look. They did, in fact, make an FA Cup final, but were knocked out by but were beaten by Chelsea in extra time. No goals for Haaland in that final. With regards to the Champions League, knocked out by Real Madrid. So there was no Champions League for them either. However, there was a Carabao Cup victory, beating Arsenal in the final, and Erling Haaland did score. He did score in the semi-final as well against Leeds. So again, it's another trophy in the cabinet. I think it's probably a disappointing season for Liverpool, considering you've got possibly the best striker in the world added to your team. However, it is a trophy, and Erling Haaland did have an impact on winning it. So the next test is going to be actually with Haaland in his Manchester City team. I couldn't put him in every other team and not sim a season with him in the team he actually plays in. So let's see. Did Haaland lead Manchester City to the Premier League title? He did indeed. With Erling Haaland at Manchester City, he led them to the Premier League title by 5 points over Liverpool. Arsenal are flying in real life. We're back in third, but 22 points off the pace. Erling Haaland, with 20 Premier League goals, was joint Golden Boot winner with Raheem Sterling, as he had a fantastic season all round. 24 goals, 40 games, 6 assists, 7.44 average rating. Again, blinder of a season. It's another Premier League victory. That's now Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester City that Erling Haaland has won the Premier League with on this player experiment video. And let's see if there was... I think the one that Man City fans really want to see is, did we win the Champions League? I think Premier League is expected. Champions League is the one that everyone's worried about. Did Erling Haaland lead you to a Champions League? Yes, he did. Real Madrid 2-1 in the final. Although he didn't score, Erling Haaland did lead you to Champions League victory, which is what we know he's been brought in for. There was a victory over Barcelona in the semis where he did score a penalty. He did also score against Inter Milan in the quarterfinals. So he was a big part of that success yet again. I believe that was the only cup this season for Manchester City. Knocked out in the FA Cup 5th round by Newcastle. And where's it? They looks... Wow, and Shrewsbury knocked Man City out in the 3rd round of the Carabao Cup on penalties. So, however, it is a Premier League and Champions League double, and I'm sure Manchester City fans would take that all day long. Erling Haaland, massive success, won you the Champions League. Exactly what he's been brought in for. Let's see if he can do that in real life now. Next up was the one that no Manchester City fan wants to see. Manchester United, Erling Haaland in a Red Devils shirt. And he did have a good season for him. I'd love to tell you Man City fans that he was a complete flop at your biggest rivals, but unfortunately he wasn't. 48 games played, 31 goals scored across the season, 8 assists, 7.52 average rating, which up until this point is the highest average rating since Aston Villa, who he led to the European Champions League. So he is, he was very, very good. Sorry guys, let's have a look at how he did. And for Man United, they were predicted to finish 6th. He got them one place further up the table as they finished 5th. Just outside the Champions League places, missing out behind Arsenal just by a point, but well clear of Leeds, who actually snuck into a 6th place finish. Man City still win the title without Haaland in the team. All that was a golden boot for Haaland with 18 goals, as he had another incredible season as an individual. Did Erling Haaland lead Manchester United, who, by the way, are now managed by Diego Simeone. So Erik ten Hag did not last long at all as Manchester United manager. So with Simeone there, with Haaland there, could Manchester United win a cup competition? They could not. So Manchester United do not win a cup. They got to the Europa League final, but were beaten by Inter Milan. They got to, although Erling Haaland was a big part of getting them there, fair play to him. He scored a hat-trick in the quarter-final, scored in both legs of the semi-final. So again, he brought success to the club in terms of getting them there, but couldn't get them over the line. In terms of the FA Cup, it was a quarter-final defeat to Manchester City. So even though Haaland's gone to your main rivals, you still knocked him out of the cup. So you've got something to take from that. With regards to the Carabao Cup, just like Man City did, it was a really bad performance. Knocked out, granted, Liverpool, you can take that, but third round, Manchester United, no cup competitions, not huge progression in the league, but Haaland was fantastic in a United shirt. So that's Manchester United done, and next up we will move on to Moneybags Newcastle. And in a Magpie shirt, Erling Haaland turned in 27 goals in 35 Premier League games. I think that's the best return that we've seen in the Premier League alone for any of our clubs on this test. 30 goals across all competitions in 41, a 7.58 average rating, which is the highest that we have seen so far across the testing. So he, in a Newcastle shirt, with regards to overall performances, Erling Haaland performed better in a Newcastle shirt than anywhere else. However, did he win anything? Where did Newcastle finish in the Premier League with Erling Haaland in their team? Well, they were predicted to finish 7th, and with Erling Haaland there, Eddie Howe's still there. They've taken them to 3rd place. Champions League qualification, possibly, very, very possibly where Newcastle will finish this year. I think a lot of people are starting to believe, certainly Newcastle fans do. I know quite a lot of Newcastle fans. I know a few Geordie lads, and I can firmly say that they reckon that Champions League qualification is definitely on the cards this year. And certainly with Erling Haaland in the team, it was. Whether it will be in real life, we will see. Erling Haaland wins the Golden Boot at a canter, 27 goals against Raheem Sterling's 18. Sterling's popped up a couple of times in these saves. Seems to score a lot of goals in a Chelsea shirt on FM23. But Haaland absolutely battered him in the race for the Golden Boot. Man City falter in their bid to win the title without Haaland in the side, and Liverpool once again capitalise on that, winning the league by 4 points. And we have teams down here, the likes of Everton, who when we put Haaland in, massively overachieved. Nottingham Forest, massively overachieved with Haaland. So we can see straight away, putting him in the team, he's gonna make a huge difference. We'd expect it, but even in these weaker sides, he can create. He can do special things. He can take you much further up the league than you're predicted. However, let's have a look at Newcastle and see, did they win any cups? Was there any trophies? Did Haaland bring a trophy to Newcastle? Let's have a look. With regards to their competitions, yes, he did. FA Cup final with Nicolas Otamendi, who must be another signing at Newcastle this year, scoring an 80th minute winner. It was an FA Cup for Newcastle, beating Leeds 1-0. Haaland scored in the semis against Bournemouth from the penalty spot. He scored 2 against Burnley in the quarters. So in the later rounds, yet again, Erling Haaland is a big part of seeing a club through to a final, to a trophy. Carabao Cup, early exit against Bristol City, disappointing for Newcastle, but they'll take a third place finish and FA Cup all day long if that was to materialise this year, I'm sure. Now, when I started this player experiment test, and putting Erling Haaland in all of these sides, the one thing that I didn't expect him to manage to save was Nottingham Forest. I'll be brutally honest with you, I think their squad's very weak for this year, far too many signings, too much gelling to do, and I thought even sticking Haaland in there, I would not have been surprised to see Nottingham Forest go down. So when we actually look at and see how he got on, he played in less games than he's played in any other team in this test, but that's to be expected because Nottingham Forest not expected to get very far in any cups, not in any European competition. He only actually played 32 times, but he did score 19 goals. His average rating was a little bit lower than we've seen in other teams, but 7.20, only 2 assists, but it's still a bloody good performance. I mean, 19 goals playing for Forest, who are going to create probably less chances than anyone else in the Premier League. The question is, was his 19 goals enough to save them from relegation? You're damn right it was. Media prediction 19th, and Nottingham Forest finished 12th in the Premier League, 7 places above, 49 points, 18 points clear of the relegation spots. Yeah, I mean, Erling Haaland, again, Sterling popping up on the goals. He's Golden Boot winner. Haaland and Salah just one behind. But Erling Haaland has done special things with Nottingham Forest in this save. He has saved them. He has kept them in the Premier League pretty much. Let's have a look. 41 goals in the Premier League, of which 19 were scored by Erling Haaland. Half of their goals were scored by him. He has single-handedly kept them in the Premier League and led them to a 12th place finish. I don't care what anyone tells me, that is solid proof that putting Haaland in your team, you will massively overachieve. But for me, that is a massive overachievement for Nottingham Forest. And it's down to one man. I mean, just look at it. Haaland. Look at all these games. Every win, Haaland's scoring. Every win. Win there, Haaland. Yeah, this guy was massive for their season. With regards to cup competitions, rubbish. Out in the FA Cup third round to Aston Villa. Out in the Carabao Cup early to Burnley in the second round. So not much there, but if Nottingham Forest could stay in the Premier League this year, even if they finish 17th, I think they would take it. To finish 12th, yeah, Haaland, massive success at Forest. Cheat code. It is being proven. Absolute cheat code. Now, when we did as going through these teams and doing this player experiment with Haaland in every Premier League team, what we have found so far is that his worst performance by far was in a Brighton shirt. He did not like the South Coast in that Brighton shirt. Granted, he did individually well, but in the team, so I suppose where I'm saying actually that he had his worst performance. No, he didn't. He did well. He still won the Golden Boot. He still scored 26 goals. But Brighton as a team was 6 points below where they were expected to be. Now, they finished 15th when they were predicted 9th, and I think that probably says more about them than it does him, as we discussed earlier. But we're back on the South Coast with Southampton to see, is it something about the South Coast clubs on FM23 this year? Because we certainly can't knock Haaland's performance. 20 goals in 33 Premier League games, 21 in 41 in all competitions, 7.27 average rating. He had an absolute blinder. How did Southampton get on? Not great. Media prediction 17th, position 16th. FM23 does not like the teams on the South Coast. Nathan Jones kept his job. Probably Haaland kept his job, to be fair, because without Haaland's goals, Southampton are 16th. Haaland scored 20 goals. In the competition across the whole year, Southampton scored 43. Just as we saw in Nottingham Forest in the last in the last one, Haaland has scored half of Southampton's goals. Now, without his goals, they're probably down. They'll probably go down in this season. So again, although the team hasn't done well, and they're effectively a +1 on prediction to finish. You've got to say that Haaland's been a success there still. Individually, he was great. He's probably done the job that wouldn't have been done without him. Southampton didn't win any trophies with him, but they did make a Carabao Cup final where you can forgive them for losing to Man City. So it's a cup final appearance as well. It's got to be seen as a decent season. It's a weird one because they didn't hugely overperform like we've seen with some others, but it's got to be seen as decent. So we'll move on to Spurs. Tottenham are up next, and we'll see. Did Haaland get Spurs into the Champions League? Did he get them closer to the Premier League title? Or did Haaland going to Spurs just make him very Spursy? Did he have a bad season? Let's have a look. I'm going to apologise to Spurs fans for using that term, Spursy. But if this isn't proof that Spursy actually exists, then I don't know what is. Haaland has been a massive success at every single club we have seen. Individually, he has banged in goals for fun. His average ratings have been high. You put him in the Tottenham team, he plays 31 times and he only scores 13 times. That's the worst output that we've seen in any side, in all of these tests. He didn't get a single assist. He scored an average rating of 7.12. He was average. Erling Haaland was very average in a Tottenham shirt. Now the question is, did the team rally round him? I mean, first of all, let's have a look. I mean, he only played 30 games. He only played 22 times in the league. He did score 10 times. I'm assuming that there was an injury or something. I can't see that Conte is leaving him out of the side. And granted, yeah, he did pick up a couple of big injuries in sort of October time. Injured for 6 weeks, came back, broken ankle, out for 2 months. So, granted, it may have been better and that might have disrupted his season. But if we go Spurs, media prediction third, they finished 6th. So again, out of all the sides, ever since Brighton, only Brighton finished 6 places lower than expected. I think if you turn around to Tottenham fans and said, if you had Erling Haaland in your team, would you win the Premier League? I think that most of them would say they'd be bloody close. This test shows that they're nowhere near. 34 points off of Liverpool, who pissed the Premier League, to be fair. 13 points ahead of Man City without Haaland in the side. Europa League qualification, 12 points behind Arsenal. Erling Haaland's nowhere near the Golden Boot, nowhere near the top average ratings in the league. It's really underwhelming. Is there a silver lining for Spurs in the fact of, did Erling Haaland finally bring you a trophy? Did you win something with Erling Haaland in your side? Champions League, semi-finalists, knocked out by Bayern Munich. Disappointing, because obviously it was just 2-0 win in the first leg. But that's decent. Further up, there was a League Cup. So there is a slight silver lining. Spurs have won a trophy with Erling Haaland in their team. Granted, he didn't score in the final. Did he score in the previous? No, he didn't score in the semis. He was probably injured at this time anyway. So how much contribution, to be fair, that Haaland actually had to that? But there was a trophy. There was a trophy for Spurs. So there is a slight silver lining. Whether that would be enough for Spurs this year, a 6th place finish and a League Cup trophy. Would Spurs take winning a cup over not qualifying for the Champions League? I don't know. But with regards to Haaland, I think this is the first time out of all these tests that we've seen, it simply did not work. It did not work. So we'll move on and see if he was any better at West Ham. It was in fact business as usual with Haaland in a West Ham shirt. And for the Hammers, he scored 27 goals in 56 games across all competitions. 5 assists, 7.38 average rating. It's a good season. 16 and 38 in the Premier League. So good return there as well. And with Haaland in the team, how did West Ham get on? Predicted 8th and they finished 6th. So with David Moyes still at the helm and with Haaland in the side, it was in fact European qualification again for West Ham. Only just finishing ahead of Aston Villa, just behind the Arsenal. Spurs back in the Champions League places, weirdly enough, without Haaland in the side. Man City still winning the league title even without Haaland. Even though Haaland had a good return in the Premier League, he wasn't in the top 3 in the Golden Boot, but he was a massive contributor to their success. We can see that from his individual stats. He was decent. In the cups, there was no cup competition, although there was a semi-final in the Europa Conference League, but they were knocked out by Villarreal. Again, was probably not really any shame in that for West Ham fans. There was an FA Cup semi-final as well, where they were knocked out by Leeds. So yeah, it was decent return in the cup competitions. You can forgive them for being knocked out by Man City early in the Carabao Cup. So all in all, a decent season for West Ham, especially considering that they're currently in the relegation battle in real life. Haaland, massive success. Wolves are up next. That's our last team in this player experiment test. And although they're our last team, this could possibly be the most amazing result so far in this test. Wolves qualified for the Champions League, finishing 4th in the Premiership. With Erling Haaland winning the Golden Boot, scoring 20 goals, Erling Haaland in the Wolves squad led them from a predicted finish of 15th to a finishing position of 4th. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And Erling Haaland himself, his season was emphatic. 20 goals in 38 games in the Premier League, 22 in all competitions in 43, 3 assists, 7.31 average rating. I'm astounded, really. I can't believe that Wolves got Champions League football. Either Lopetegui is an absolute genius as a manager and hugely underrated and may go on to be the greatest manager on FM23 this year over the coming years, or the impact of Erling Haaland in that squad has just been incredible. Has just been unbelievable. Maybe it's a combination of the two. With regards to, because I mean, look at that start to the season. They didn't lose a game until the 29th of the 10th, 29th of October before you lose. What a great season for Wolves. As far as cup competition goes, there was no cup wins. FA Cup out in the 3rd round to Villa. Quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup out to Chelsea. No real shame in that. Obviously no European competition. Although, according to this, there will be Champions League football for Wolverhampton Wanderers next year. Well done, Erling Haaland. So we'll have a quick recap now. I mean, I'm going to leave it on this page, but just sort of what I've done, I've written all these stats down. I've worked out the averages just because I'm a bit of a geek like that. So we are looking at, has this been a success? I mean, over the course of all the seasons, Erling Haaland scored 504 Premier League goals for the 20 sides in the Premier League. That's an average of 25 per season. With regards to assists, there was only 81, which is an average of 4. So if you're looking for someone to creative striker, someone to link up the play, Erling Haaland's probably not your man, unless you play him in a different role to the 20 Premier League managers on this game. So he's an out-and-out goal scorer. We know that from real life. But yeah, 81 assists across the 20 sides. An average rating overall of 7.38. So decent. And from a point of view of where teams finished to where they were predicted, so we looked at that media prediction in the Premier League. We looked at where teams actually finished of Haaland in the team, and it was a plus 3.25. So an average of sort of 3 to 4 places above where teams were predicted, which when you think about it, I mean, is pretty decent in the fact of you think that with Leicester, with Liverpool, with Man City, we finished exactly where we were expected to, and obviously Liverpool and Man City are expected to finish 1st and 2nd. You can't really gain much there. It was with the bottom sides where we saw massive impact. Aston Villa predicted 13th, finished 4th. We had Everton predicted 16th, finished 8th. Fulham predicted 18th, finished 9th. I think Nottingham Forest 19th predicted, 12th finished, and then Wolves 15th predicted, 4th finished. I think that shows you if you put this guy into a weaker side, he's gonna, as a one-man team, he's gonna hugely benefit. He's gonna hugely move you on. Probably the counteracting to that is if you are Wolves, if you are Nottingham Forest, if you're Aston Villa, you're probably not signing Erling Haaland in your first season, which might make the whole thing a little bit, but it was just interesting to see. And I think it's fair to say that for me, Erling Haaland is definitely a cheat code on FM23. Bearing in mind, I've done this test with a lot of smaller clubs. You're going to be signing Erling Haaland if you're a big side, if you're a decent side, if you've got the money to spend, and if you're a big side with good players, he's probably going to lead lead you to massive things. He's going to lead you to league titles. He's going to lead you to Champions Leagues. I mean, we won the Premier League on this test as Arsenal, Chelsea and Man City. We won the FA Cup with Newcastle. There was League Cups for Leicester, Liverpool and Spurs. And there was a Champions League for Man City as well. The impact on Man City wasn't great without Haaland, which we probably expect because they won the league last year without him anyway. They still won the league in 10 of the seasons on the tests that we done, so Man City didn't really miss him. But yeah, that's been our first player experiment test here on the Not So Special one, Football Manager YouTube channel. If you like what you saw, please do check out some of my other videos. I'm doing tactics for specific teams. I've done one for Chelsea so far, and I'll be starting a new YouTube series soon, which is going to be called Garbage to Greatness, which is going to be a European journeyman, where I'm going to be starting at the very, very bottom, no qualifications, no experience, journeying around Europe to build a career, hopefully from the very bottom to the very top, and experiencing some different countries around Europe as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you like what you saw, please tell your friends, please share, please like, please comment, and please subscribe. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.